Okay, so running modern applications, especially when they're containerized, it can get complex, right? Managing everything efficiently is a real challenge.
It absolutely is. Scaling, maintenance,
Hmm.
it's a lot.
Exactly. And that's why today we're diving into AWS Elastic Container Service, ECS. We want to kind of demystify its two main ways of working, Fargate and the EC2 launch types.
hmm
Our goal here is to help you figure out not just, what they are, but which one actually makes sense for your specific situation.
Yeah, and it's crucial to understand this isn't purely a technical coin toss. This choice really hits your operational overhead, your costs, how much control you have.
Right, it's strategic.
Definitely. Getting it right impacts your efficiency, your team's agility, everything down the line.
Okay, let's unpack ECS itself first then. So AWS ECS, it's essentially a fully managed service from AWS designed to orchestrate Docker containers.
Right. It helps you deploy them, manage them, scale them up or down.
And it does this within the whole AWS ecosystem, kind of abstracting away some of that underlying server headache. Plus, it integrates with other AWS tools.
Oh, yeah. Seamlessly. Think Elastic Load Balancing for distributing traffic, CloudWatch for um, monitoring your logs and metrics. It all works together.
So the big value is freeing up developers.
That's a huge part of it. Less time spent on server patching and maintenance, more time focused on the actual application code, on innovation. It's built for high availability with less operational fuss.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for a lot of folks. Fargate. Tell us about that. It's the serverless option.
Exactly. Fargate is ECS's serverless compute engine. What that means is AWS completely handles provisioning and managing the underlying compute for you.
So wait, no EC2 instances to manage at all? No auto-scaling groups to configure?
None. You define your application requirements, CPU, memory, and what's called a task definition, and Fargate launches and scales the containers needed to run it. You literally don't see the servers.
That sounds incredibly simple. What's the catch, or maybe the less obvious trade-off besides just convenience?
Well, simplicity is key, absolutely. And the pricing is resource-based.
Yeah.
You pay per second for the vCPU and remember your container tasks request.
Okay, pay for what you use.
Right, which sounds great, and it is great for applications with variable workloads or microservices that scale independently.
hmm
Fargate handles the scheduling, finding capacity, scaling all automatically.
But
But for very predictable, high-resource, long-running workloads, that convenience premium might make Fargate potentially more expensive than running your own EC2 instances, especially if you could optimize costs with things like reserved instances or spot instances on the EC2 side.
okay. So that leads us to the alternative, the EC2 launch type. What if you do need that deeper control or have requirements Fargate doesn't quite meet?
That's precisely where the EC2 launch type comes in. With this model, you provision and manage a cluster of Amazon EC2 instances within your AWS account.
So you're responsible for the VMs.
You are. Think of it like this. Fargate is like renting a fully serviced apartment, right? Everything's handled, but maybe you can't paint the walls your favorite color.
Okay.
EC2 is more like buying the house. More setup, more maintenance maybe, but you control everything. The instance type, the OS, the storage, the networking configurations, total control.
And why would you choose that extra work?
Granular control is one big reason. Maybe you need specific GPU instances for machine learning or apps that need particular kernel settings, or maybe you have existing licenses tied to specific instance types. And as we touched on, cost optimization.
Right, for those predictable workloads.
Exactly. If you have a steady state application and you can commit to reserved instances or effectively use spot instances, you might achieve lower costs than Fargate for the same compute capacity. You set up the instances, keep them patched and updated, and then ECS just schedules your container tasks onto your managed instances.
Okay, so let's boil this down. If you're starting a new project or just trying to decide, how do you weigh Fargate's simplicity against EC2's control?
It really comes down to priorities. Where do you want your team spending their time and effort? Fargate prioritizes developer speed and minimizing operational burden. Your containers scale, potentially very quickly, without you worrying about the underlying servers.
But you give up some things.
You give up direct instance access, the ability to choose any instance type, and potentially some cost optimization levers that EC2 offers, especially for those stable, high-use workloads. With EC2, you gain that fine-grained control and cost potential, but you take on the responsibility of managing the instance fleet patching, scaling the instances themselves, security hardening at the OS level.
So the scaling is different too. Fargate scales tasks, EC2 requires you to scale the underlying instances.
Precisely. Fargate handles task scaling automatically based on metrics you define. With EC2, you need to configure auto-scaling for your EC2 instance cluster to add or remove instances, and then ECS places tasks on the available capacity.
So a general recommendation.
Often, we suggest starting with Fargate. Get moving quickly. Iterate fast. If you then hit a specific performance need, a cost ceiling, or a customization requirement that Fargate can't meet, then evaluate moving parts or all of your workload to the EC2 Launch Type.
Makes sense. Start simple, optimize later if needed.
Basically, yes.
So wrapping up, the choice really hinges on what you value most. Is it that simplicity, that minimal overhead you get with Fargate?
Or is it the deep controls, specific hardware needs, or potential long-term cost savings you can get by managing your own EC2 instances?
And importantly, either way, you're not losing out on core AWS functionality, right? Like monitoring.
Not at all. Both Fargate and EC2 launch types integrate fully with services like CloudWatch. So you can monitor performance, set alarms, check logs, manage costs effectively, regardless of which path you choose. You always have visibility.
Good to know. So that really leaves a question for you, the listener, to think about. In your own projects, where does that trade-off between simplicity upfront versus that deeper, maybe more cost-effective control later on? Where does that balance feel most critical for you?
Yeah, where are those hidden costs or maybe unexpected benefits in your own architecture? Something to chew on.